So the first thing that it does is that it duplicates this stuff, which is its genetic information. It's the little thinkers that remember how it was made, right? It's stored in every cell. You've got a code that says this is what identifies this this organism. So the first thing it does is duplicate this, so it has another set of that information, and then it migrates that set to the other side of the animal, and then it pinches itself in the middle, and it breaks. And now you've got two animals that are identical. The good news is that can happen very quickly. It can happen really accurately. Animals can very quickly reproduce, because one of these can make two, two of these can make four, four can make eight, eight makes 16. Before you know it, you have lots and lots and lots of these little organisms. The bad news is that if there's a problem in this design, every other one has the same problem. So if a disease comes along and it attacks this particular organism, every one that has been connected to it is vulnerable to that same disease, because there's no genetic diversity amongst that animal, right? Amongst those organisms. So the response to that, the strategy to protect ourselves as organisms against that, is to have the genetic organization be more different. And so we invented what's known as sex. And what happens in
Like that.
what happens in sex is that you get two organisms that each have different genetic information. So I have, I can't remember which little balls of clay I did for this.
Should be pink and blue.
I'll use these. So I've got two different organisms here, right? Each organism makes a specific cell that's job is to reproduce itself. And now, instead of this one splitting and this one splitting and just continuing to split like that, well, they do split. So they produce, actually, they split like this first, and then this one splits also, so that now you have, this is in a sense a half of an organism in terms of genetic information. This animal only has half enough information to make a new individual. This is a sex cell. And then this one also has half enough. But when these two sex cells get together, they now have enough to make a new individual, and the new individual is not like either of the original parents. So if some disease were to come along and the parent were to get sick, there's a pretty good chance that the offspring is different enough that they won't get sick. So sex is really all about sharing genetic information. You get two parent cells that combine and then split their genetic information so that the offspring do not have the same information as the parents. Exactly. They have some of it from each. Make sense? So when we think about, when we're comparing animals and we're really looking at how they reproduce, the first question we want to ask ourselves is, do they reproduce sexually or not? If they reproduce asexually, if they don't produce sexually, that's called asexual reproduction. A means not. So asexual reproduction means they just split and every cell is like every other cell. If they do reproduce sexually, then there are a couple questions we ask. One question we ask is, are the males and the females different? Because you could conceivably exchange genetic information and have both parents look exactly alike. The fact that one has one piece of genetic information and the other one has another piece of genetic information doesn't mean that the two parents have to look particularly different. Males and females of some animals don't look very different. But they might look quite different. So the actual individuals of the male and the female might look pretty different. They also might do cool things in order to attract each other. Are there kind of mating rituals that they do in order to attract each other? So we ask those questions too. So then at some point, they do exchange genetic information, and the question is, where do they get those sex cells? What organs make the sex cells? Those organs are called gonads. And what are they like in that animal? And what are the sex cells like? Are the sex cells the same? Is the male sex cell just like the female sex cell? Or are they actually different? Because as we go along, we realized that we could specialize the work too. You could have a sex cell, because there are two jobs that really have to be done for a brand new cell to survive. A new cell needs to be nourished. And so you need to make sure that there is a storage of food available right away for when a new cell is born. So the good news about that is that you can do that. The bad news is that you get this little tiny cell and now it's carrying a food store, which could make it not very mobile, right? And the other task that it has to have, besides having a food store like that, is it has to find its partner. And to find its partner has to be pretty mobile. So those two things don't go along very well, right? Being really, really fast and mobile and carrying stuff don't go together very well. So what we ended up doing is separating those two tasks. So this is a male sex cell. It's small, it's doesn't carry any food, so it can't live very long. But the good news is it is equipped with these little flippers, because it's a really, really good swimmer.
And it has two little puppies.
Hmm?
It has two little puppies.
Yeah, because it has only, well, instead of 4,
Okay.
it's haploid. That's true. So this little sex cell is specialized for swimming. Really fast swimmer, and but not much food storage. Here's the female sex cell. See how much bigger she is? The female sex cell is not as good at moving around. But the female sex cell has a packed lunch. So they've specialized these two jobs. And the male has the job of finding the female, and when they get together, they now have the necessary food storage.
What do you mean by food storage? Enough to nourish.
Eggs have an initial supply of nutrients, so that in the very beginning there's nutrients are provided. And it's part of the female gamete. So the technical term for this is gamete, because a gamete is a marriage partner. So this is a female gamete, this is a male gamete. I'm not going to do the labels. You can explore the labels. We'll just go straight to the